Hi there, I'm Susie Carter, editor of AlaskaMen magazine. You've probably seen us on Oprah, Joan Rivers, or Good Morning America, or read about us in People, Life, Ladies' Home Journal, Cosmopolitan, or even the Wall Street Journal. You know, I've always been a matchmaker. I started AlaskaMen magazine on my kitchen table so I could find wives for all my single friends. And now I help people all over the world find each other, and I'm known as the unofficial ambassador of matchmaking. You know, my AlaskaMen are favorites all over the world, and I'm often asked, why are the AlaskaMen so popular? Basically, the reason why AlaskaMen are so popular is because the rugged image of a man living in the wilderness, doing what he wants to do, the kind of guy who'll be sensitive, down to earth, a man of his word, and most of all, someone who will love and cherish them. Now, I'm bringing you some of our favorite AlaskaMen in hopes that you'll find your special AlaskaMen. Now, here they are.
From the time I was very young, I have always wanted to be in a band and to play music. And I started out playing piano and then eventually started playing guitar. Country music has just always been a part of my life, and it's what I play, it's what I sing, it's what I feel, it's what I love. I developed a lot of musical skill because of the time element that I had to work with. Summertime is so very busy here, and wintertime there's a lot more time to spend and sitting behind a guitar and with a sound system working on the music. For me, music is an inspiration, and it's really hard to sit down and write a song. They have to really come to you, and then you have to sit down and spend the time with it. And when they come fast, and they're few and far between, but they come fairly fast, and so you just have to sit right down and give it the time.
And would you give a nice Anchorage warm welcome to Mr. Dave King? He's going to come up and sing some songs for us.
I love performing live on stage in front of people. It's an exhilarating experience to be standing up there and just speaking directly to them. I feel I can speak from my heart more truly through a song than any other way. And feeling them move with your music and react to it is just something that really turns me on.
Well, I was born in Longview, Texas, in 1965, and shortly after that, my parents moved to Alaska. I was about 1 year old when they moved up here. We moved to Soldotna, Alaska, which is south of Anchorage, and lived there for several years, and then moved up into this area. And my parents are missionaries. My father was a pilot, trained as a pilot mechanic. And we lived in the bush. Flying was a very important part of everything we did. And every day we were in the air doing something or another. The family airplane was like the family station wagon.
I first started learning to fly when my father thought I was old enough to reach the pedals.
Started flying more when I was 16. And got my first airplane when I was 17.
It was really neat because this small community we lived in, the three closest friends I had, we were all becoming pilots at the same time, and we all used our father's airplanes, and we'd go all over the place at night in the summer, because of course it was daylight all summer long, and we always used to joke that we'd go bar hopping at night with the airplanes, and we'd go from one gravel bar to the next gravel bar on the river. It was a lot of fun. Ever since I was old enough to appreciate the ability to be your own person and have your own business, I've always wanted to have an air service. I'm the chief pilot here as well as the owner, and I have several employees under me that work in the office, that help fly, that help with the maintenance, and keeping track of all is a pretty big chore for one person to do. This is my baby. Her name's Ellie. I've had Ellie since she was 4 months old, and it's not so much that she likes to fly. She loves to fly, but she just got to go anywhere I go. That's her big thing, is to be with Dad everywhere, right under his feet all the time. The thing that I like the best about the flying is the variety. I mean, from day to day, you're doing different things. You're seeing different scenery. It's not the same thing twice. Never the same thing twice. I like a girl who knows how to be a woman and also knows how to really kick up her heels and have a lot of fun. She's got to have a sense of adventure, and she's got to have a sense of stability. She needs to be able to keep up with me. That's for one thing for sure. I'm all over the place at various different times. A romantic evening for me in this place would be to take a woman out to a favorite restaurant I have nearby, but the only way we go there usually is we hop in this Super Cub and we head on down there for the evening, and then we'll go play around up in these mountains during the evening. That'll be a lot of fun. And we'll come back here and I'll sing a whole bunch of great songs.
Men are crazy. We can be very crazy. You get a bunch of us together and we're even crazier, so look out. An extreme skier fears death. That's our greatest fear. And a lot of times you find yourself in a bad position or a bad place where fear may be causing hesitation. And hesitation is not a good thing when you do the things that we do. You should actually be thinking about absolutely nothing and going for it, not letting that avalanche get you, and staying on top of things, because one mistake might mean death.
Yeah!
I've done so many exciting things that I've hit the limit of my adrenaline so many different times that I can't really pin down one most exciting experience. But it's that moment when you're maybe 50 feet off the ground sailing through the air, or maybe it's that moment you're this close to death. There's a certain state you get to where you're maxed out.
Yeah!
You can't feel any more sensation than you're feeling at that point, and I've had that feeling many times.
Woo!
I'm a ski bum. I ski every day, all winter long, and I pretty much live to ski. I work in the summer just so I can ski. I spend about half my year in Juneau, and the other half of the time I spend in Sitka. I usually am a commercial fisherman, and this summer I decided not to fish and to do something fun like this pedicabbing. This is very fun. Way to spend a summer. Welcome to Juneau. This is our capital city. It's where I live, and I really love this place. And on this tour I'm going to show you places that no one else can go unless you're on a pedicab. I think I'm different than most people because I don't feel bound by having a job, a 9-to-5 type of thing. I'm more into freedom. I'm more into doing my own thing on my own schedule. I'm kind of a spur-of-the-moment person, and I think people have a hard time relating to someone like me unless they're the same way. Our business is in a perfect place right now. Out of Bounds Adventures offers mountain biking, hiking, fishing, paragliding, Out of Bounds has done surf expeditions and snowboarding expeditions, skiing expeditions. We always add an Alaskan twist to the things that we do. You may come up here to go skiing, but you guaranteed not to just be skiing. We're trying to attract a different crowd of people, younger people, fun people who like to do exciting outdoor things and not your average tourist who comes to Alaska on a cruise ship. My philosophy on life pretty much has been given to me by the things that I do. I mean, I risk my life, and I think that teaches you how to think. I think that carries over into everything. I've been paragliding for 5 years. My business partner, Bruce, and I got our hands on a paraglider one winter, strapped ourselves in without any training, and jumped off a mountain. We didn't know what we were doing, but everything seemed to work out, and we taught ourselves how to paraglide. Paragliding is the most amazing thing that there is, I think. You can actually fly with the eagles, and sometimes we'll be flying along on the mountainside, and there'll be one of our eagle brothers in a tree, and we whistle at him, and he whistles back and flies out of the tree and comes flying with us. I think the first time an eagle came and flew next to me when I was paragliding, I was still so afraid to be in the sky that I didn't really pay much attention to him, but I'm sure the eagle is having a great time watching me learn to fly, because I was a little awkward in the sky. And he just kind of came over and checked me out and realized I wasn't a very good flyer and went off and played with people or birds who could fly better. I know I would like a woman who does a lot of the same things that I do. Very adventurous soul, free-spirited, lives for the moment, loves life, and also likes to be alone and not surrounded with other people. Romance to me is not going out in the bars. It's not being around other people. It's just being with one person, away from everybody, and just trying to discover what the other person is about.
Well, I've always loved flying. I started when I was 13 flying sailplanes in Issaquah, Washington, and it's another thing that was unique and different, and I loved it because it was like escaping from everything around the city. It's a whole different world of solitude up there. My father came up here in the early 60s, and he was just reading a newspaper in Seattle, and they advertised. He called them up, and they flew us all up here a week later. Been here ever since. This was really a frontier then. It's nothing like you see today, you know, walking to school and seeing moose. And it was very unique, and that's what I liked. It was different than anywhere else I'd ever been. And I fell in love with it immediately.
Mrs. Nelson, can I help you?
I have 2 brothers and a sister, and we all work together.
6 days.
And we have Acme Fence Company now. It's been going for 17 years. As a family, working together, most people think that's tough, but actually, for working together and being a family, we get along very well. Dad still helps out once in a while because he can't stand that retirement. He has to get his hands in or he just goes nuts, but he enjoys himself just golfing mostly. That's why we're best of friends, because he's a pilot and I'm a pilot. He plays golf, I play golf, and so we do a lot of things together that, you know, kind of bonds us. Golf is something that you either love it or you hate it. It's a game that changes every single time you play it, and there's just sometimes I can't get enough of it. Every tournament I can get into, every waking moment, it seems like lately I've been thinking of golf. I've been playing since I was 6 years old. To be outdoors in Alaska and fresh air and out on a golf course not working, I don't know a more ideal thing in life. For 20-some years now I've been flying, and it's just one of them passions that gives you the feeling of always escaping the everyday doldrums of life. You can get up there and just look down on everything that's going on and know that you're away from it all. When I was an air traffic controller, it was a type of job that was just mentally stimulating that I enjoyed very much. I liked the challenge of it, of playing like 3-dimensional chess all the time, because you have all the different types of aircraft operating. You can't tell them to stop and think about it. You have to be able to spit out instructions right one after another, and they have to be right 100% of the time. What makes me unique? Probably that I'm 6'7". Most people just look up at me and go, God, you're tall. And I never realized that going all through life because I'm always looking down at everyone. But when I ran into someone that, at my height, it was a natural reaction to look eye to eye and go, boy, are you tall. My best traits? Probably my humor. I find humor in everything that I do. I love witticism. I love the humor that someone can put in a situation that you may be frustrated about something, but they can tell you something to just put a light on your face. My philosophy of life is very simple. I just try and live every day as honestly as I can and as happily as I can. I don't worry about all the little things because as far as I know, we're only here one time. And so I'm going to live it to the fullest as long as I'm here. Well, one of the things I look for in a woman, I think, is what attracts me most is her sense of humor, whether she's open and self-confident about herself. That tells me a lot. I'm looking for a best friend. That's probably the most important thing to me, is someone that you just like to do everything with. You can trust them. There's no jealousy involved. I don't tolerate jealousy. It's just not in me. Either you have that bond between you that you want the best for each other. I like a woman who likes to be feminine. That femininity is what I enjoy. When she has her hair done and she takes pride in herself. To be a woman.
My photography really started to get an interest in it about 5 or 6 years ago. I was lucky enough to catch some fabulous northern lights over Anchorage, and at the time there wasn't very many photographers successfully getting good northern lights shots. And I showed them to some people, and people kept asking me, you know, if you've made an enlargement, I'd buy one from you. And you hear that time after time after time, and of course you start making enlargements and selling prints, and so that kind of got me hooked. A lot of the animals that I can shoot easily, maybe say like sheep or moose, you're always looking for that ultimate shot where the lighting's just perfect or there's something particularly unique about the situation. I've had a few pictures published. Had just one in Alaska magazine. Had the Anchorage phone book cover. Had 5, 6 in the Anchorage Daily News and the cover of that, and the Metro cover. And for a living, the last 6 years I've been estimating for a small construction company. I always tell people I gamble with my boss's money. It's not a bad way to make a living, you know. With the job, I've managed to get quite a bit of freedom, so if the lighting is particularly good or something in particular I want to try and get photos of is available, I usually can finagle a little bit of time away, go out and chase after sheep or something. From my earliest memories, I've been around guns and hunting. I think I shot my first ruffed grouse back in Minnesota when I was 6 years old. Hunted deer out in Montana when I was like 9. About 5 falls ago, I went out on a sheep hunt, and I was coming back to my truck, and I come walking up out of this canyon, and just before I left the bottom of the canyon, there was a stream bed. There was these fresh grizzly bear tracks. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, and I followed them a ways, and there was this beautiful, clean print in the mud. So I made my track alongside of it and took a picture of this bear track, and I followed up this river bottom and followed these tracks, and thought, well, it's probably, you know, several hours at least old. And all of a sudden, I see these nice little round ears and this big round face looking at me over the brush, and beautiful blonde toplat colored grizzly bear. And I pulled alongside him with a pistol and shot into the brush about 5 feet to his right. And you're looking for that sharp, loud report out of that .357 mag, and it's like a pop gun. Anyway, he hesitated, turned and disappeared in the brush. Never saw him again. I've been told by a lot of people I was an idiot for not shooting the bear. It seemed like a reasonable gamble, that he really didn't want to mess with me if I gave him enough encouragement not to. And I was raised in a conservative evangelical church. To me, as far as the spiritual connection, I look at this and I see the spectacular beauty and the design, the detail, and I'm just real thankful and give praise to the creator of it. As far as a relationship and marriage, I won't go into a relationship with somebody that doesn't have very strong morals, who isn't comfortable with themselves, doesn't have the stick-to-itiveness that's necessary in a relationship. I think I can bring tend to be, and I've always been pretty stable. I've never gone off on any wild tangents as far as drinking or drugging or, you know, any of that type of thing. And I think that's important. Hopefully somebody out there does.
There's 8 children in my immediate family, and you know, it was pretty different growing up with that many kids. It was never a dull moment. When I was growing up, I was a hellion. My mother was hanging some clothes out on the clothesline, and I was just raised in holy hell, so she tied me up in a chair, right? So I'd stay put and maintain for a little bit, and I chewed the rope in half and still got away. She couldn't tie me down. I'm a lineman, so you know my work entails building transmission lines, working in town, putting in underground, everything basically from generation to the building. When they build transmission lines, they don't build them normally where people can see them. They try to keep them back where they're out of sight. So you get to travel up in the mountains and the hills and work outside all the time and see a lot of things. There was a while before I had children that all I did was travel, but I've had enough of that. I like to stay around Anchorage, so 90% of my work is in Anchorage.
Hi, my name is Andrea, and I am 8 years old, and I love riding horses, and my dad is sometimes stupid, but I love him.
You can't tell him that, sweetheart. Andrea is the oldest of the 2. She's 8 years old, and she's just a bundle of energy. She's just going continually. Anthony, on the other hand, is just the opposite. He's kind of more laid back, and he's 4 years old. You know, I have 2 things that I'm really proud of. One is how well I have succeeded at the job that I do. I feel that I'm very good at it. The other is my children. I got this boat in 1990. For the longest time, I wanted a boat that I could run up and basically just run rivers with, because it's like, you know, there's a lot of things that are inaccessible up here by highway, and with the boat it just adds that much more that you can see. I was driving by this boat every day on the way home from work, looking at it, drooling, and finally one day I just said, that's it. I just wheeled in and bought it and drove home with it. I guess what I'm looking for in a woman is basically somebody that'll be there when I need her, or you know, or I can be there for her. It's very important that she likes children, or we're not going to get very far. And she's going to have to, I would think, have a lot of patience with kids.
Cool. Dad, and what is that for? Diamond High School.
You're not supposed to point that out, son. My idea of an ideal date would be, you know, maybe for sure dinner would include dinner, dancing, maybe a movie. I think trust is the utmost importance. I think communications, of course, has to be there. I'm fairly easygoing. It takes a lot to rattle me. I'm understanding, I think. How do I feel about my sisters? Hey, here they are.
Well, I think Marvin's a good catch because he's just a really neat guy. He has lots of different interests. You know, he goes and he works on a pole, real rugged in Alaska. He goes fishing, and then he'll come home and he'll bake an apple pie for his kids. Or he also has a garden where he raises tomatoes. He golfs. He's just highly diverse, just a really neat guy.
The most romantic thing about Alaska is just the open beauty of it all. I just love being able to get out and go someplace that nobody else is. The mountain behind us is called Flat Top. It's one of my favorite places to go. Late evenings when I get off work, I sometimes like to come up here. On the south side of it, on the right-hand side, we'll see it's kind of a rocky outcropping. Sometimes I'll bring a blanket up here, a bottle of water, and just come up here in the evenings and relax and watch the sunset. It's a very soothing experience that puts everything in perspective, especially after a stressful day. The biggest influence in my life has been my father. He's someone that has been always been very honest. He has the same problems I do about being open and communicating, but he has always been there for me. I got out of the Marines, I decided it was time to move on with my life, get some college under my belt. I'm taking criminal justice classes at the University of Alaska, trying to get a degree in justice. The law system has always fascinated me. I think it's that old euphemism of trying to make a difference. What attracts me to the bodybuilding sport and on the amateur level is that it's purely for the promotion of health and seeing what you can do with your body and the way you can change and sculpt yourself. As far as the workout itself, that is the easy part for me. That's the part I enjoy the most. It's the other aspects that go along with it that give me a hard time, such as the dieting. Very straightforward. I like someone who is honest and caring and trustworthy. I see myself as being a very patient parent. Someone who makes time to develop a good relationship with whatever children I do have. I believe that I am, in today's society, I don't fit in a lot of aspects simply because I do believe in a lot of the old standards. I still believe in honesty. I believe in being sincere and meaning what you say. Romance to me is being with somebody who cares about you, for who you are, spending time out, going for walks, holding hands, watching the sunrise. I work in a gun shop called Great Northern Guns. My job there basically consists of sales and helping people, teaching basically a little bit more about firearms and what their purpose is with society and not, getting away from the mentality of like the drive-by shootings and crime. Competition for me, it's part of it. It's called IPSC shooting. It's the International Practical Shooters Confederation. It's a worldwide organization and it's all basically done with handguns. 3 aspects of it that they score is accuracy, power, and speed. All 3 could carry the same weight. I practice as much as I can. A lot of times during the summertime, I'll shoot around 500 rounds a week. That's quite a bit, but the guys who do really well shoot upwards of around 2,000 rounds a week, but I just don't have, it's hard to make that much time for that. I've had several people tell me that I am the strong silent type. I keep to myself more than I talk. I think everybody has barriers. Ways they keep themselves protected. As far as being myself, I'm always trying to be who I am. I don't try to be something I am not. Communication seems to me to be the most important thing in a relationship between a man and a woman. People really need to just be themselves. Let people see who you really are. It goes along with dating. When people first start dating, they try to hide who they really are and they try to put on a facade. Just be yourself.
I made a mistake of telling my mom after we went to a party that I didn't know how to waltz. So next thing I know, I was in Fred Astaire dance studio, and it was either that or piano lessons. So I chose the ballroom dancing. I think dancing is something that you can teach someone that they can always use all the rest of their life. For a lot of people, finding out that I'm a police officer is kind of a shock to them. I'm a conservationist officer as well. Take care of the seal rookeries and kind of monitor poaching and things like that. I'm an EMT, emergency medical technician. I do and coordinate search and rescue. If some of the fishing vessels out there get in trouble, we respond to that. Or someone's lost them on the island or another neighboring island, we go look for them. I'm a firefighter. I work I'm stationed in St. George. It's about 780 miles west of Anchorage. St. George has a permanent population of about almost, I'd say about 300 people. I went out to Dutch Harbor as a counselor, and I was talking to one of the ladies that's a parks director there, and she goes, "So I always wanted to learn how to waltz," and I said, "Oh, I can teach you." And then the next thing you know, I was teaching a class in Dutch Harbor, which is, again, not the most famous place for ballroom dancing. My first class had a big turnout, about 30 people, and everybody walked in, and no one knew who the instructor was. So when I closed the door and I kind of had to latch it because the wind was there, I was blowing open, I had to latch it because they were locked in there. And they turned around and saw this big black guy that was the instructor. It was kind of fun. My last class that I did teach in Dutch Harbor, I had 2 couples that met and were eventually married from there. So that was okay. I guess those waltz and the tango paid off, and I decided to get married.
He's kind, considerate, handsome, giving. He'll work. He's my eldest. He's the first. And he's very, very special in that way because he almost didn't make it in the world. He's, believe it or not, weighed 4 pounds and 7 ounces. And he came 7 months premature, and he came to a mother who was only, when he was born, I was 5 days from 17. I have foster children and biological children, and my family is probably around, 300-400 children by now.
She's always been open-minded about everything. Whether she liked what I was doing or not, as long as she could tell that I really wanted to do it, and she supported it.
He's always been a little different. I mean, in a good way. When they were kids, we found this out later, that their friends would say when they were coming to our house, let's go over to the Valley of the Giants.
Romance to me is more a feeling than an event. I mean, anybody can have a candlelit dinner, but if you don't have those kind of intimate feelings toward the person, then there's no romance.
.3 KGOT, Mark Murphy playing the hits, all the songs you want to hear from the hit lines at 258 KGOT. New Steve Perry, check out the lead guitar on this song. The guy's name is Lincoln Brewster. He was born in Homer, grew up in Fairbanks, and here he is with Steve Perry. You Better Wait on 101.3 KGOT. And most people don't believe that I'm shy simply because I am in radio. They think, oh, how can you be shy if you're on the radio? And it's a totally different thing. When I'm locked in here, when I'm locked in my studio, and nobody else is around, I'm in control, and it's a different world. It really is. If I'm out doing a live broadcast, for instance, I can be a ham and I can have fun and I can be, really, I become someone different almost. And it's kind of weird, but that's just the way it is. A lot of people think, oh yeah, DJs, boy, they must have women running around. And I don't know if it's really a misconception or not, because there probably is a lot of guys that have a lot of women running around and that are disc jockeys, but I really don't go out very much, like to the nightclubs, unless we're doing a promotion. And that's really, I think, where a lot of that generates. You go to the nightclubs and the disc jockey at the nightclub will say, hey, so-and-so's here from KGOT, and all of a sudden, no, where, and I just don't go to clubs unless I have to. Every time you come in here and you go on the air, it's different. Different people are going to call you, you're playing different music, and you've got different things to talk about, and it's just a lot of fun. A lot of people will say, oh my God, that's what you look like. And it's weird, because when I was growing up listening to the radio thinking, gosh, this is what I want to do someday too, that's what I thought. I always drove around thinking, I wonder what this person looks like. I always like to hear that. So that's what you look like. It was like, oh, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but that's the facts of life. This is what you get, baby. Now and again, fan mail comes in, but it's not one of those things that I run to the mailbox every day to check, because it's very, very rare. I just started throwing tapes and resumes everywhere from Maine to Florida to Anchorage, Alaska. And somebody was joking about, oh, yeah, you'll probably get a job in Alaska or something. They're like, yeah, right. And sure enough, the general manager was interested in my tape and the resume, and we started talking on the phone. They flew me up for an interview. I spent about a week up here. It was April. No clouds whatsoever, about 50, 55 degrees, which is, you know, very unusual, but just happened to be the nicest week ever. And I thought, yeah, I can hang here for a year or two. I gave myself a couple of years, and I've already been up here about 4.5 years. When I'm away from the office, you will find me on the golf course or on a tennis court. I love to play golf and tennis. I like doing a lot of different things outdoors, like going to baseball games. We have a couple of pretty good Alaska Baseball League teams here in Anchorage, so I like to go hang out at the ballpark. I also like sitting around the house, watching the tube or a game of Monopoly, a game of Risk. I mean, I just love to play games. I love to play games, whether they're out on the field or inside. I think the most important quality in a woman is her ability to have fun. I like somebody who can take a joke and dish it right back. Someone who's very smart when it comes to finances. I'm pretty nitpicky about that sort of thing. And I think if you got the money, spend it, great. But a lot of people are very careless with their money. They don't think about the future. And I think it's very important to find somebody who knows how to manage her money wisely.
Well, originally how I got into boxing was I went to see what was available here in Anchorage, and I ran across a team that was working out, and I asked if I could be on the team. I was told by the promoter then that he already had a team and that it was full, he didn't really need anybody else, but that I could spar if I wanted to. I did some sparring with one of his better guys, and he ended up letting me on the team. It's a chess game. It's a lot more of a chess game than most people realize. It's for every weakness, there's a strength. For every style, there's a counter style. Counter punch for every punch. It's a lot more to it than most people realize. I fought for the professional middleweight championship in 1984. It was a 10-round fight where I broke my hand in the first minute of the second round. The pain doesn't enter into it until after the fight. I was very disappointed, but still thought I could win. And I ended up losing the fight on a split decision. Promoting boxing came about in a way that's a little unusual. I would run into people all over town, and they would ask me when the next bout was going to be. And there were no bouts anymore. The boxing had pretty much stopped. So they kept asking me when there was going to be a bout and why I didn't put one on, and so finally I did. Goliath is my baby. He's about a 135-pound black lab, Mastiff and Akita mix. I had Goliath's dad for 14 years, and now I've had Goliath for 6, so he's a real special to me. My youth was filled with sports and adventures. I grew up near a river in Sacramento, and I was a river rat, and I had a friend that owned a farm, so I pretty much lived on his farm and on the river. My adopted parents are older, so they thought all the things that I did were crazy. All the adventures and everything, they thought I was trying to hurt myself, which that really wasn't the plan, but sometimes happened. I met up with my natural dad when I was 28 years old. So it's been about 7 years. That was the first contact I'd had with him since I was about 4 years old. It was quite the experience to find out that my natural father was a lot like me, even though we'd never been around each other. He was a boxing champion, was a stunt man for MGM. I found out I wasn't crazy, I was supposed to be adventurous. What I like about riding motorcycles is I like the handling, the speed, the power. I have a Honda 700 Nighthawk street bike. I've taken it on 2 extensive trips. One trip was 10,000 miles in 30 days, both ways on the Alcan. And another trip, I shipped it back east and went about 8,000 miles all up and down the East Coast. The qualities that I look for in a woman are, most of all, that they're a nice person with a good heart. Attraction is definitely part of it, but as I get older, the attraction part of it seems to be less and less, and the feeling becomes more and more.
The day I learned to tie my shoes, I really knew I was creative because my father was carving, and he was carving on the steps in our house. I wanted to carve and use a knife, and he said, if you want to use a knife, you're going to have to learn to tie your shoes. So I learned to tie my shoes right then and there on my own, and that's when I sat down and I started bringing things out that were already there, things that I could see. This is a soapstone, and it started out basically, this was the beginning of the shape over here. And when I saw it's a bear. But when I first looked at it, I looked at the rock and I tried to decide what's already in the rock. It's easiest if you see something in the rock already, you don't have to take as much material away. It's already there. And if you notice on the back edge, it looks like a leg. And on the front edge, I saw a face of a bear. This hasn't been carved. This area has been worked, but basically this is the beginning of a bear walking in a river, walking upstream. I'm trying to become an artist full-time as an occupation, but I'm trying to do it in a way that I don't compromise what I want to make. I don't want to make things that are going to sell. I want to make things that I see, and sometimes things you see don't sell as quick. But in the long run, they're worth a lot more because they're really a part of you. Rather than be a starving artist, I take work wherever I can, and one of the things that I do is I repair sailboats, fishing boats, yachts. The whole idea in that is that it's a type of work that requires artistic ability. As a child, I grew up in an area where there were a lot of horses. It was a farming community, and that's what every child in a farming community wants, is their own horse. I basically grew up a childhood dream. I got to fish and hike and camp and spend a lot of time with my family and the families that were the neighbors. We knew our neighbors well. It was a very good experience. I didn't really know that I was Russian and Aleut as I was growing up. I found out I was adopted when I was older, when I understood things a lot better. I live near Seward, it's a coastal community, it's an ice-free port. Seward's my home, what I would call home now. Home is where your heart is. I look at a piece of material that I'm going to make art out of, and I almost would call it artwork itself, because the pieces that I choose aren't just any ordinary rock. There's something about them already that is already artful. The polar bear started from a piece of white alabaster. This is the natural texture on the rock. When I looked at it, I saw a shape of a polar bear, and I knew I wouldn't have to do too much to it to bring that polar bear out. And as I ended up chiseling away, the polar bear just showed right up out of it, and I didn't really work on it too much. It just happened. It wasn't something I had to work at. I want to do everything that I possibly want to do. If there's one thing I don't want to do, I don't want to be decrepit, old, and look back. It's not that there's anything wrong with being old. It's going to happen to everybody. But I don't want to look back and say, I wish I would have tried that. I want to say, I tried it. I didn't do so good, but I did it. Long-term goals, I see myself being self-employed, a family business with the person that I love, doing the things that we love to do. When I'm riding a horse down a beach, it takes me away from all the problems and all the difficulties of the modern world. I almost feel like I'm back in time. I'd really like to be riding on a beach with another horse riding beside me, with the person that I really care about.
I arrived in the AlaskaMen magazine by a friend of mine. She kind of got an application and filled it out and sent it in, and as she felt that I needed to meet somebody.
We're watching Oprah Winfrey, And they were, the special was on the AlaskaMen magazine, and they were interviewing the Alaskan men. And so, as a joke, she got it for me, bought me the magazine, the Alaskan Men. I was attracted to Dennis in the article of the Alaskan Men because of, number one, the way he looked. There wasn't a real good picture, but, you know, blonde hair, blue-eyed, which was completely out of character for me. The fact that he was in the restaurant business, because I was also, and I figured we would have that in common. And the last line of his article said he was a hopeless romantic, and I hadn't met any of those yet. The day I got his first phone call, I did not have a clue who he was. I didn't drink, so I knew I couldn't have gotten drunk and given my phone number out. So he said, "This is Dennis Petty." He said, "This is Dennis." And I thought, I don't know anybody named Dennis. He says, "You know Dennis Petty from Alaska?" And I thought, oh my God, it's one of those guys I wrote.
Together we run the Caribou Cafe in Glen Allen. It's been the family business for going on 12 years, 13 years now.
He's a very good man. He's got a good heart. He's very good to me. He's honest. He's very hardworking. I've never met anybody like him. And I doubt very much that there is anyone else like him. He's a very, very good man. The whole thing has been like a fairy tale. For 10 years, my life had not changed. I was in the same job, doing the same thing, still scraping to get by, in the same home. And I knew all along that, you know, 10 years from that point, I would be doing the same thing. And I always knew there was something else that was going to happen to me. I had no idea what it was at all.
Thank Alaska Men's Magazine for,
yeah,
you know, helping us find each other. So it does work.
I hope you found your Alaska Man in this video, and if you have, be sure to write to him. And here's the address.
To contact your Alaska Man, write Alaska Men, USA, 205 East Diamond, Suite 522, Anchorage, Alaska, 99515. For further information or subscription, call 1-800-MY-ACMEN. That's 1-800-692-5636.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to watch for our next video of our special Alaska Man.